Hello, Worldview listeners. I want to take a moment and give a shout out to my friend Luke and his team at increasecreative.co. This season of our podcast, Luke has been helping with his team there to produce the content that I hope that's been a blessing and encouragement to you. It's been a help to me to have his behind the scenes work, and I want to give him a shout out and let you guys know about his company. Increasecreative.co is a great partner for you to consider for powerful church communication. Luke's team can create custom websites, compelling graphic designs. They help with original video and, as you've noticed, original podcast content. It allows people like you, people like me, to connect with our communities. So I'd encourage you to let them handle the creative aspect of what you need help with so you can focus on your mission. Take a moment, visit increasecreative.co to learn more about how Luke can help you. That's increasecreative.co.
Welcome to Worldview, a podcast featuring teaching and conversations with Dr. Mike Lester that focus on helping faithful disciples develop a biblical worldview. Thanks for joining us, and here's your host, Mike Lester.
Well, welcome back to another episode here of Worldview with J. Michael Lester. I'm excited to kick the new year off with each of you. I'm excited about this season. The topic will be uncovering and discovering together. It's a topic that every leader deals with. It is a circumstance we all find ourselves in eventually. And I'm speaking specifically about those moments when we come to impossible situations where the answer is not obvious. Leadership meets dilemma. And we're going to work through a process on how to try to work through that, how to grow as a leader. And before you tune this off because you say, I'm not a pastor or I'm not a ministry leader, all of us will find these principles to be helpful. Why? Because, well, we may lead a corporation. We may lead a ministry organization or a Christian school. We may lead our families. But ultimately, we lead ourselves. And so in that sense of the word, the principles that we'll be diving into in this season of Worldview is really trying to uncover how do we think biblically, or how do we approach these moments with a biblical worldview that gives us the tools we need to make the right decision. Now, before we jump into this season's topic, I want to give you a resource that you can sort of use to follow along this season that I think will be a help to you. I think most of you realize who listen to this podcast that my wife and I, we've been in Christian education for a little over 30 years. We started serving in education in 1995, and it's really been all we've known our adult life. For 26 and a half years, I served as an academic dean at a traditional campus-based college. For the last several years, I've served as the president at Veritas Baptist College. At Veritas, we are an online ministry training school. We don't have a campus. Sometimes that's difficult for people to get their minds wrapped around. I always enjoy watching people's expression when I describe to them our model. And we'll say things like, hey, Mike, where is Veritas at? And I'll say, well, today Veritas is here, wherever that location is. Because we don't have a campus, we bring proven leaders to wherever you're sitting at. And this allows people who maybe are already plugged into a church or plugged into a ministry who just needs more training or to finish a degree. They don't have to uproot their family. They don't have to quit their job. They don't have to move across the country. They can continue serving where they're at, and we'll bring the education to them. I love the model. It's not for everybody. I get it. But I love that it's an option. Well, anyway, I say all that because through Veritas this past Christmas 2025, we made available a resource free to anybody who requested it. And there were hundreds and hundreds of people who requested it. And I'm grateful that we had an opportunity to just give that away. Really advertising the free book that we gave away, but it's still available. I don't know how long we'll keep it up, but for now, I want you to know that it is available. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to download it, and you may want to read it and follow along as we go through this season's episodes of Going Forward, Leading When the Path Isn't Clear. So there's a book that you can receive for free by requesting it. Go to this website, our college website, vbc.edu/go-forward. That's it. Go forward. It's a book we wrote, roughly 175, 200 pages, that deals with leadership when you hit these sticky situations. I'll tell you the impetus behind the book. There's a great book, perhaps you've read it. It's called The Red Sea Rules by Robert Morgan. It's a short little book. If you haven't read it, it's worth your time. I was teaching through this book with my son-in-law. He and I were teaching one of our groups here at our church in Connecticut, co-teaching it. We're going through this material. One day, in particular, when it was my turn to teach, we were going through Exodus 14. And the background is, most of us are going to be familiar with it. Moses has understood leadership. He's seen leadership fleshed out in his whole childhood and early adulthood. For 40 years, he was in Pharaoh's household. No doubt he saw examples of good leadership, examples of bad leadership, no doubt about it. Well, when God calls Moses after the 40 years of training as a shepherd, and he calls him back to lead his people out of Egypt, you know the story. Moses observes a wonder-working God. Moses watches the true God of the universe dismantle the entire Egyptian pantheon. Plague after plague after plague is reinforcing the concept that God alone, Jehovah alone, is the one true God, and no other God can stand before him. And this culminates with the death of the firstborn, that final plague. And so now you have this picture of the children of Israel triumphantly leaving Egypt. They're rejoicing, they're celebrating. They're so happy that they trusted God and that they trusted Moses, and they followed his leadership. Fast forward just a short little while later, excuse me, and you'll see that now those people that were rejoicing are not rejoicing. They're complaining. Moses, the leader who knows God is for him because he's seen God do all of these things to this point, now finds himself in an impossible situation. The Red Sea sits in front of him. He doesn't have the resources, the technology, the power to cross it with these people that he's leading. He can't go backwards because the Egyptian army is closing in. There's no left or right options. It's impossible. And so, unsure of what to do, he prays. In Exodus 14, God says to Moses, Moses, tell the people to go forward. And that little phrase, go forward, it just struck me. I've read that passage, no doubt, 100 times or so. But you know this as a Bible-believing Christian. You know that sometimes you'll read a passage that you've read countless times before, and there's just a phrase that just jumps off at that moment. And for me, it was those two little words, go forward. And I began to just think through that and try to think about just my own journey of leadership and the people that I've interacted with, the people that have sharpened me, the people that I've helped to sharpen. And I just began to envision what do we do as leaders when the path isn't clear? Some of these are almost instinctive, but I couldn't articulate. Some of them were lessons learned the hard way. We probably all have had those as well. But I can say as a leader in the home, we've had difficult situations we didn't know how to go forward. I can say as a second leader, if you will, or not the senior leader, but have some responsibility in leadership, but can't make the final calls. I've had those moments when it's like, I just feel like I'm stuck. I can't. If I go backwards, that's not good. If I go forwards, I really can't. The path just isn't clear. And then I've had those moments as a senior leader as well. We probably all have. So what do we do when the path before us isn't clear? So that's what we're going to be talking about this season. So either take a break right now and download that book, or make sure you make a note to do it right after this episode. I think it'll be a help to you. It'll give you an opportunity to dive deeper into some of the principles that we'll learn and talk about and discuss. And here's my goal. My goal is for those of you right now that are in the moment that I just described. Going backward isn't an option. Going forward doesn't look possible. You know God is for you. You know He's on your side. You can look back and see what God has done to get you to this point. But because of our limited vision, we just can't see a way forward. So my heart is for those of you in that moment that you'll learn some truths over the next 10, 12 weeks or so that will be able to help you see the breakthrough. And some of you are saying, I don't know, Mike, if I can wait 10 or 12 weeks. Download the book. Most of you could read it in one sitting. And then you let the podcast just come back and sort of reinforce some of that process for you. The other thought that I would have sort of as a heart burden would be that you would be able to share these principles with those that you lead, who will also face their own sets of impossible circumstances. So that together, working as a team, working as the body should work, we can make an impact for the God's kingdom in our day and age. So with that in mind, let me take a few moments to sort of tell you where we're going, sort of sketch out how this works over the next several episodes. So the objective is clear. We know we want to continue moving God's people, moving ourselves, moving our homes in a forward motion. We don't want to retreat. We want to advance. We know that there are times when how to do that isn't as clear as others. So we're going to break this process down into 3 stages and then just discuss some principles for helping us move through each stage that I think will be practical and actionable for any of you that are listening to this season's podcast. So when I think about the stages, stage 1, we just need to stop for a moment and understand the difficulty. Sometimes we have a tendency in difficult places to over-exaggerate the difficulty. Sometimes we imagine ourselves that no one has ever been in this type of situation before. Sometimes I'll have people come to me for counsel, and I'm sure you do as well. And you begin to share from a few decades of experience, and you begin to share not only what you've learned, but what people ahead of you have poured into you. And you're trying to pour into that person who's maybe in their first few years of ministry. And inevitably, something like this has been said, and perhaps you've heard it. Yeah, that sounds really good, but I don't know that you fully understand my position. And you don't have the same pressure that I have, or you don't have the same conflict that I have, or it's just different. And there's truth to that. But the other side of it is simply this idea as well, where we can get the idea that my difficulty is unlike any other difficulty. And so in stage 1, we just want to take an honest look at the circumstance we find ourselves in. We know God is working. We know God is desiring His best for us. We know our own heart. We really want to make an impact for the kingdom. But we're in that moment where it's just hazy. It's not clear. We don't know the next step. And so in stage 1, we're going to talk about how do we really understand the circumstance that we're in, the big picture. And we'll talk also about identifying some of the paralyzing fears that can sometimes keep us from making the right decision. We call it, you've all heard it, we call it the paralysis of analysis. And there's something real about that, isn't there? Where we're afraid to make the wrong decision, so we don't make a decision. And then we stop and think about it. Man, by virtue of not making a decision, that was my decision. And it was the wrong one. And so trying to just work through those fears and to remind ourselves God has not given us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and sound mind. No, we are great at disguising fear. We don't call it fear. We just rename it, and it sounds more spiritual. I'm just seeking wisdom, counsel. I don't want to move ahead of God. And there's validity in all of those. I'm not downplaying them, but often, if we be honest, often those are spiritual platitudes that we're using as an excuse because we're afraid. And so in step number one or stage number one, we just want to try to get the big picture, understand the difficulty from a real perspective, a biblical perspective, and a real life perspective. Let's not make it less than it is, but let's not make it more than it is. So that's stage one. We'll talk about that. We'll take a couple weeks and just sort of work through different angles of that. Stage two, deciding the next step. As leaders, sometimes we are accustomed to thinking 3 years out and 5 years out and 10 years out, and God gives us a vision, and we can imagine where we'll be at with the ministry or with family or what our kids may be doing in 5 years or whatever. We're just thinking. We're constantly thinking out in the future. Sometimes when we hit these moments when the path isn't clear, we just can't maybe see where this is going to be a few years out. It's okay to just take the next step. Rather than letting the fear of not knowing where this will go in 5 years keep us from taking the next step, is saying, you know what? Can't see it. But all indicators from my counsel, from the Word of God, and from spending time with prayer and the Holy Spirit prompting me, I've identified the next step. And so we take that next step. So we're learning how in this stage to build, I just call it a support team. Let's take a moment and just think through this. Don't answer out loud. If you're in a public place, maybe you're at a gym right now listening to this podcast while you're on a treadmill. So don't answer out loud. People may stare at you. But who would you consider to be your support team? Your go-to team when you need counsel. Often people are coming to us for counsel. I get it, but who do we go to for counsel? Who's our support team? And what qualifies them to be on that team? If the answer is, they're my friend and they tell me what I want to hear, we may want to rethink that. We're going to look at some biblical examples as we come to that step. But as we think about the next step, a support team will help us. A principle that also helps is to learn how to walk in the light we already have. We know biblically that God is giving us the lamp to our feet and the light to our path. We may not have as much as we want. We may not be able to see as far as we would like to see. But God at least lights up enough to help us know the next step. And so we need to take it. When we think about this stage as well, one of the things that comes to mind is we have to learn to trust God even when we don't understand. We understand this as parents. Our children will come and we'll give them, and we have great reasons for the reasons we give our kids. This is why. We don't always have time to explain them. Sometimes we do, and we should take time to explain when we can. But sometimes there's just not time, and we just want our kids to just trust us. And we get frustrated when they don't, but then we turn around and we do the exact same thing to the Lord. Sometimes I wonder if God laughs at the irony of that. And so as we think about the next step, we need to learn to just trust God even when we don't understand. And as we work through stage 2, we end with this thought. Just do it. Make the decision to take the next step and then own it. Don't hedge your decisions like, if it doesn't work, I didn't really want to do it, but the council said. No, just own it. Trust God with the results and move forward. Well, stage 1 is just trying to get the assessment of the situation. Stage 2 is working through this decision to take the next step. And here's the final stage we'll work through. So as a leader, you've wrestled with this and you have been on a mountaintop with God and praying, and you've been with your counselors, and there's been some time that has elapsed, and we've gone through a process. And so when we have gone through this process, we have confidence and we have faith, and our vision has been restored, and we're ready to just go and charge forward. We need to remember that the people we lead haven't been involved in this process. And so stage 3 is, how do we share what God has been doing in our heart with those that we lead? And I think as we work through this, one of the things that has helped me, we need to learn to communicate a pathway and not a promise. Sometimes I've seen leaders presume to know God's will and what God is going to do. They stand up and say, if you follow me, this is going to happen because God said it. And sometimes that was zeal and not faith. And what happens when zeal isn't enough to push that project across the finish line, people become skeptical. If God said he was going to do this and God didn't, is God not able? Or wait, is the one that I'm following not able to discern the voice of God? It's just dangerous, isn't it? But communicating a pathway where, hey, I don't know where this is going to end. I just know this is the direction God is leading us. It's going to be an exciting journey wherever he takes us. It gives us the freedom to allow people to just experience God at work. You will have people that push back on the decision. Naysayers, if you will. We're going to work through that as well. And then what I will end this season with is just some time to stop, contemplate, reflect on what God has taught you and how you're going to share those lessons with others so that you're a stronger leader going forward. Anyway, that's the scope of this season's episodes for the next quarter or so of 2026. We talk about going forward, learning how to lead when the path isn't clear. I'm super excited about it. I hope you'll go to that website I mentioned, vbc.edu/go-forward. Download the book and start reading it with us. And I pray that God will use that, and of course the episodes as well, to help you be a leader that is ready to lead even when the path isn't clear. So join me in the next episode. We'll jump into this first stage, if you will, of trying to understand the difficulties and work through some principles that help us be the leader God's called us to be. Until then, I look forward to seeing you. God bless you. And I hope that we'll continue to be able to lead with a biblical worldview. Look forward to helping each of us to learn how to go forward this new year. See you next time.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Worldview with Dr. Mike Lester. You can connect with Mike at jmichaellester.com, where you'll also find more discipleship resources. Mike also serves as the president of Veritas Baptist College, an online university dedicated to training ministry leaders virtually so that they can stay where God has called them. Learn more about Veritas at vbc.edu. This podcast is hosted by Dr. Mike Lester and produced by Luke Clayton and the team at increasecreative.co. We hope this episode has helped you grow in your journey of being a faithful disciple of Jesus. And we look forward to having you join us again right here on Worldview.